On the 11th of April 2022, a 23-year-old woman named Jazmine Barnes pressed the live button on her Instagram account. What her 12,000 followers didn't know was that they were about to witness something that would haunt the internet forever. By the time the live stream ended, Jazmine was dead. But that wasn't the most disturbing part. The most disturbing part was that for 3 minutes after the attack stopped, Jazmine was still holding the phone. And the comments were still rolling in. Heart emojis, fire emojis, and one comment from a user who simply typed, "She's not acting." Someone call 911. Nobody called. This is the story of a murder that was broadcast to the world in real time. A murder that happened in a small apartment in Memphis, Tennessee. A murder that everyone thought was staged. A murder that shattered the line between reality and entertainment. And when the truth finally came out, it wasn't just the killer who was guilty. It was everyone who watched. Jazmine Barnes was the kind of girl who lit up a room. That's what everyone said. She had this laugh that came from deep in her belly. The kind of laugh that made you laugh too, even if you didn't know what was funny. She grew up in South Memphis, raised by a single mother who worked double shifts at a nursing home to keep food on the table. Jazmine was the oldest of 4 kids. She practically raised her younger siblings while her mother worked herself to the bone. Money was always tight. The lights got cut off more times than she could count. But Jazmine had dreams. Big dreams. She wanted to be a makeup artist. She wanted to open her own salon one day. She wanted to buy her mother a house with a big backyard and a white picket fence. That was the plan. By the time Jazmine turned 21, she had built a decent following online. She posted makeup tutorials. She did Get Ready With Me videos. She shared her life, her struggles, her wins. Her followers loved her because she was real. She wasn't fake. She wasn't pretending to live some perfect influencer lifestyle. She showed the messy apartment. She showed the cheap drugstore makeup. She showed herself crying when things got hard. And people connected with that. They saw themselves in her. But there was one thing Jazmine never showed online. She never showed her boyfriend. His name was Marcus Reed. He was 26 years old. He worked at a warehouse on the outskirts of Memphis. They had been together for almost 3 years. And from the outside, they looked like the perfect couple. Marcus was charming. He was handsome. He had this smooth way of talking that could convince you of just about anything. But behind closed doors, Marcus was a different person entirely. He was controlling. He was jealous. He was violent. Jazmine's closest friends knew the truth. They saw the bruises she tried to cover with makeup. They heard the way she made excuses for him. He's just stressed from work. He had a rough childhood. He's trying to change. But the violence only got worse. In the months leading up to her death, Jazmine had tried to leave Marcus 3 times. Each time he found her. Each time he begged and cried and promised he would change. And each time, Jazmine took him back. Because she loved him. Because she believed in him. Because she was terrified of what he might do if she didn't. On the morning of the 11th of April 2022, Jazmine woke up feeling hopeful. She had just landed a small brand deal with a cosmetics company. It wasn't much money, but it was a start. She was finally being recognized for her work. She felt like things were finally turning around. She decided to go live on Instagram that evening to celebrate with her followers. She wanted to do a makeup tutorial using the products the brand had sent her. She set up her ring light. She arranged her makeup brushes. She fixed her hair. And at 7:34 p.m., she pressed the live button. For the first 20 minutes, everything was normal. Jazmine was laughing. She was chatting with her followers. She was showing them how to do a smoky eye. The comments were flooding in. Love your energy. You're so beautiful. Drop the skincare routine. It was a typical live stream. Light, fun, innocent, and then at 7:58 p.m., everything changed. Jazmine's apartment door slammed open. The sound was so loud that viewers later said their phone speakers crackled. Jazmine's head whipped toward the noise. Her face changed instantly. The smile vanished. Her eyes went wide. She whispered something that the microphone barely picked up. Later, audio experts would analyze the stream and determine that she said, "Marcus, please, not right now. I'm live." What happened next? unfolded in real time, broadcast to thousands of people. Marcus stormed into the frame. He was angry. His face was twisted with rage. He grabbed Jazmine by the hair and yanked her backward. The phone fell. The screen went black for a moment, but the audio kept running. And the audio was horrifying. Viewers heard screaming. They heard a woman begging for her life. They heard objects crashing to the floor. They heard the sickening sound of fists meeting flesh. And then they heard something that made the blood run cold. They heard Marcus say, "You think these people care about you? They don't know you. I'm the only one who loves you. And if I can't have you, nobody will." The phone was still recording. The screen was still black. But the audio continued for 3 more minutes. 3 minutes of crying. 3 minutes of gasping. 3 minutes of silence that was somehow worse than the screaming. And then, at 8:03 p.m., the live stream ended. Not because someone ended it, but because the phone died. In the hours that followed, something deeply disturbing happened. The internet did what the internet does. It debated. It speculated. It doubted. Thousands of people had watched the live stream. Thousands had heard the screams. Thousands had heard a woman dying. And yet, the prevailing theory online was that it was all fake. It was a prank. It was a social experiment. It was a desperate attempt to go viral. People made reaction videos. People made memes. People joked that Jazmine deserved an Oscar for her performance. But a small group of viewers felt differently. They had watched the live stream from beginning to end. They had seen the look in Jazmine's eyes when the door slammed open. That wasn't acting. That was pure, primal fear. A few of them tried to contact the authorities. But when they called the Memphis Police Department, they were met with skepticism. A murder live streamed on Instagram? Are you sure it wasn't staged? The calls were logged, but no immediate action was taken. Meanwhile, Jazmine's family was trying to reach her. Her mother had called her 3 times that evening. No answer. Her younger sister had sent her a text. No response. By midnight, her mother knew something was terribly wrong. Jazmine always responded. Even if it was just a quick emoji, even if it was just a word, she never went completely silent. Her mother called the police and filed a missing persons report. The next morning, on April 12, 2 officers were dispatched to Jazmine's apartment for a welfare check. They knocked on the door. No answer. They knocked again. Nothing. The apartment manager was called. She unlocked the door with a master key. And what the officers found inside would become the subject of national headlines. Jazmine Barnes was lying on the living room floor. She was face down. Her makeup brushes were scattered around her. The ring light was still standing, casting an eerie glow over the scene. She had been beaten so severely that she was almost unrecognizable. The official cause of death was blunt force trauma. She had been dead for approximately 12 hours. The phone was found nearby. The screen was cracked. The battery was dead. But the SIM card was intact. And on that SIM card was the evidence of the entire crime. Marcus Reed was arrested 6 hours later at a motel on the outskirts of Memphis. He was found with a packed bag and a bus ticket to Atlanta. When officers took him into custody, he showed no emotion. He didn't cry. He didn't confess. He didn't say a word. He just stared straight ahead with a blank expression that chilled the officers to the bone. During the investigation, detectives uncovered a history that made the tragedy even more devastating. Marcus had a prior arrest for domestic violence involving a previous girlfriend. That case had been dropped when the victim refused to testify. There were police reports. There were hospital records. There were restraining orders that had been filed and then dismissed. The system had failed multiple women before it failed Jazmine. But the most heartbreaking detail came from Jazmine's phone. In the days leading up to her murder, she had been recording voice memos. She was documenting the abuse. She was building up the courage to leave for good. In one recording made just 2 days before she died, Jazmine said, "I know if I stay, he's going to kill me. But I'm so scared that if I leave, he'll kill me faster." That voice memo was played in court. The trial of Marcus Reed lasted 3 weeks. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence: the Instagram live recording, the voice memos, the testimony of friends and family, the prior domestic violence charges, The defense tried to argue that Jazmine had fallen. They tried to argue that Marcus had acted in self-defense, but the jury saw through it. On the 7th of March 2023, Marcus Reed was found guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But the story doesn't end there. Because after the trial, a new and deeply uncomfortable conversation began. It was a conversation about the viewers, the thousands of people who had watched the live stream and done nothing, the people who had laughed, the people who had made memes, the people who had called it fake. Jazmine's mother gave a statement outside the courthouse. She stood in front of a wall of cameras, her eyes swollen from crying, and she said something that would be quoted again and again. "My daughter died in front of the world, and the world just watched. The world just scrolled. The world just commented. And not one person called the police in time to save her. Think about that. Think about what we've become." Her words spread across social media like wildfire. They sparked a movement. A hashtag began trending. Justice for Jazmine. But it was more than a hashtag. It was a wake-up call. It forced millions of people to ask themselves a deeply uncomfortable question. What would I have done? Would I have called the police? Or would I have assumed it was fake? Would I have been one of the people who kept scrolling? The truth is, most of us don't know the answer. Because we like to believe we would have acted. We like to believe we would have been the hero. But the reality of that night, in April 2022, suggests something far more troubling. It suggests that in the age of viral content, we have become dangerously desensitized. We have blurred the line between reality and performance to the point where we can no longer tell the difference. And when we can't tell the difference, tragedy becomes entertainment. Horror becomes content. A woman's last moments become just another video in the feed. Jazmine Barnes was 23 years old. She had dreams of opening her own salon. She wanted to buy her mother a house. She wanted to live. And now her name is etched into the long and painful history of domestic violence victims who were failed by the people around them, failed by the system, failed by the very people who were watching. The video of her murder was eventually removed from Instagram. But nothing on the internet ever truly disappears. It still exists in dark corners of the web. It still gets shared in private groups. And every time someone watches it, they become part of the story. They become one more person who saw what happened and did nothing. So now I want to ask you the question that has haunted me since I first learned about this case. If you had been watching that live stream, what would you have done? Would you have called for help? Or would you have assumed it was fake and kept scrolling? Be honest with yourself, because the answer might tell you something about who you really are. If this story moved you, if it made you think, if it made you feel something, then don't let it end here. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Talk about Jazmine Barnes. Say her name. Keep her memory alive. And if you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please reach out for help. There are resources available. There are people who care. You are not alone, and you deserve to live a life free from fear. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more stories like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And as always, take care of each other.